Good afternoon to you. It's 5:06 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL.
Mr. President, to Iran in this moment.
Don't.
Well, that didn't work. Iran firing hundreds of missiles into Israel over the weekend. Saturday, a huge barrage coming into that country, almost entirely stopped by Israel's Iron Dome. An amazing piece of technology, worked oh so well. But tensions, of course, only increasing in the Middle East, despite Joe Biden's demands that Iran not attack Israel. Don't, he said. They did it anyway. Joe Kent is here. He's a retired Green Beret combat veteran, a Gold Star husband, and a candidate for Congress in Washington's 3rd Congressional District. Sir, great to have you with us. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks so much for having me back.
Those images, like I said, amazing to see the technology as Israel's able to defend itself against the missiles coming in. What did you think when you saw all of this weekend?
You know, it's fortunate that we have the technology to defend against such a barrage. I think it's easy to dismiss just how dangerous this is because hundreds of pounds of explosives were essentially sent hurtling over the heads of Israelis. Luckily, thankfully, it was all intercepted. But look, this is all tragically preventable. I mean, Joe Biden gave Iran the money and basically the green light to conduct these attacks, to fund and to direct the attacks of October 7th. So everything that we've seen, you know, in the Middle East since October 7th has been because Biden is funding not just the Iranians, but he's funding pretty much every side of this. And now things are spiraling out of control, and there's potential for escalation, and there's more potential for us to get further sucked in. We've already lost, 3 soldiers in the Iraq, Syria, Jordan tri-border region, 2 Navy SEALs in the Red Sea. So the potential for escalation it's only increasing right now as things transpire.
What does it tell you when an American president warns an adversary, don't do it, and then they do it anyway? What does it tell you about Iran's view towards Joe Biden and in the United States more broadly?
I mean, they think that he is a fool, and they have every reason to believe that he's a fool. I mean, the Iranians respect strength. They respect power. That's why under President Trump, they tested him. They found his limits that resulted in the killing of Qasem Soleimani and then the establishment of the Abraham Accords. And so the Iranians were contained. Biden comes in and he shows weakness by giving them billions of dollars, and they're going to play him for the fool that he is.
It is remarkable. You know, you had Admiral Kirby today at the White House insisting that, we didn't give the Iranian regime any money. We just gave it to them for humanitarian purposes. And we've been watching it really closely. And I promise all that money is for humanitarian purposes. What do you make of this White House claim?
It's laughable. I mean, Kirby himself can barely say it with a straight face because even he knows that it's just completely untrue. There's no way for us to track those billions once Iran gets their hands on them. And look, every piece of data that we have on this Iranian government says that when they get access to funds, they fund and enable their proxies to attack America, to attack the West, and to attack Israel. So Kirby's lying through his teeth, and he knows it.
It's really awful to see. And again, he's smart enough to know. You're totally right about that, and he's lying. What about the energy component to all of this? The Biden administration has eased up enough on Iranian sanctions that they're sending a ton of oil outside of their country, to include 90% of it to China. I thought we were being tough on Iran. That doesn't sound tough. That sounds like we're letting them fund their entire war machine.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we eased those sanctions, and now Iran can introduce their oil, their natural gas to the market, which gives them more money to fund their proxies. But then also, we killed off U.S. energy dominance. We killed off our own ability to cut into their bottom line. And so now we're at the mercy of some of these markets as well. I mean, just a few weeks ago, Biden was going to war with U.S. LNG. So, and LNG is exported heavily by Iran, by Qatar, and by Russia. So Biden is on every single side of this, but he's on every single side of this, and it only weakens the United States of America.
Doesn't it seem like that is the one area, the one policy area where you can make a whole world of difference and actually provoke peace around the planet without losing lives in the process? If you were just to stoke and stimulate American energy production, you could go a long way towards fixing a lot of this, correct?
Most certainly. I mean, look, President Trump deserves a lot of credit for his foreign policy, but people usually say, well, that's because Trump was so strong and somewhat unpredictable.
Yeah.
But Trump understood that if we were exporting energy, that we were not only lowering the price for the American people, and that was a net positive for the working class here in America, but also we are cutting into the bottom lines of the world's worst actors, whether it was Putin, Iran, or it made it so we weren't at the mercy of OPEC. And now we're seeing the exact opposite of that. And at the end of the day, the worst actors, China and Russia and Iran, they're the ones that benefit from us killing off our own natural energy production capabilities.
Well, speaking of bad actors, we also have bad actors here in the United States of America. Very extremist views that have been on display of late when it comes to animosity towards both Israel and the United States. So, for instance, today we're seeing a tremendous amount of traffic blockages being done by the anti-Israel left all across the country. But that pales in comparison even to the calls for death to America and death to Israel that we've been hearing out of their mouths, including today some of the protesters, some of these people who are out in the streets screaming death to America. That's an extremist view if I've ever heard one. And also in Chicago over the weekend, activists being trained in how to say death to America in Farsi. The same is true in Dearborn, Michigan, where people were chanting that very thing. And then a woman was just arrested in California this past week for going to a city council meeting and threatening to murder the entire city council, saying that the guillotines are coming for them and they're going to go to their homes and murder them. She's been charged with making terroristic threats. Joe Kent, how concerned are you about all of this extremism on display? And have you seen the Biden administration demonstrate any willingness to go after it?
No, you can tell that the Biden and Democrats at large, they are having a really hard time right now because this is their base. This is their activist base. These exact same people that are out there right now claiming they care so deeply, about Gaza and about Israel, they're the same people that were, burning down cities in the summer of 2020 under the guise of BLM and Antifa and these sorts of things. These people are fundamentally at war with law and order and really with just our basic system, whether it's the nuclear family or whether it is the United States of America and Western culture writ large. The Democrats welcomed these people into their coalition to win elections in 2020, and now they are seeing a massive fracturing of their coalition, but they are still very gun-shy about condemning them or cracking down on them when they go out and block off highways or riot or threaten people.
But the supporters of the nuclear family and the basic system, as you just said, are the ones who are being billed as extremists by the Biden administration. They've assigned the FBI to examine school board meetings and write down license plates. They've said that the American military is full of all sorts of extremists who might have questions about the integrity of our elections. They issued a national stand-down order for the military so they could be briefed on all of their extremism. I haven't heard any similar language about all of these crazy lefties screaming death to America.
No, none whatsoever. And like you said, the entire system controlled by the Biden regime from the FBI on down, it's designed to go after patriotic Americans. And we've just seen that time and time again, a weaponized legal system. We've seen the extremist stand downs. The FBI is targeting parents that have the audacity to show up at school board meetings. And they're not going after these people who are, blocking off highways and causing civil disobedience. That combined with our wide open southern border, that civil disruptions, and then the wide open southern border make us a very, very juicy target for all of our adversaries to exploit. So we're in very dangerous times, especially heading into a summer heading up to the election.
That's for sure. So Congress is still completely out of control. Last week was another example of that. Joe Kent, as they were debating whether or not they would continue spying on American citizens without a warrant. I can't believe this is even a debate, yet it is here in Washington. Should you prevail in this congressional run that you're undertaking, what kind of legislative priorities would you have?
Well, number one is the border. We can't have a wide open southern border and have a country, so we've got to get tough, seal that off. Mass deportations. We've got to get U.S. energy back online so we can start lowering the cost of living for Americans to bring down inflation, and then stop the out of control spending. Look, we're almost $35 trillion in debt. We are basically destroying the dollar and destroying the futures for our children. But then, basic civil liberties. We can't have the government spying on us about a warrant. We need significant reforms with the FBI and basically our two-tiered justice system that needs to be brought to heel. And we need to stop attempting to go to a new war every single 5 minutes. I mean, Biden's trying to get us involved in conflicts, whether it's in the Middle East or whether it's in Europe. We need to get those under control, really start to put our country's sovereignty and security first.
And that comes with a big push to get our energy going, and that decreases the likeliness that we'll be in those wars, correct?
100%.
I mean, that seems like it's a huge deal. Lastly, on this issue of spying on American citizens without a warrant, of course, it made its way through Congress with in no small part because Speaker Mike Johnson voted for it as a tie-breaking vote. He's obviously trying to tie himself very close to President Trump right now. He went to Mar-a-Lago on Friday to argue for election integrity, which is a perfectly decent thing to do, but I think he's got some ulterior motives. He's trying to keep the base close. What do you make of his tenure so far? He seemed like a nice guy prior to the job. Is he strong enough to do it well?
He needs some backup. Our margin's way too tight right now. We need more conservatives that are going to go in there and actually fight for all the things that we just discussed. Right now, he's having to cut deals with the Democrats. I disagree. I think we should be using the little bit of leverage that we have to get the border shut down, to get the budget under control. And look, at the end of the day, I want him to do well, but there's no excuse for voting to give the government the ability to violate our basic civil liberties.
No, I totally agree with you. All right, Joe Ken, please, good luck in your congressional run, and you're always welcome here. We're really grateful for your time today, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Joe Ken, great story, this guy. He's a Green Beret, combat veteran, Gold Star husband. He's dealt with it all, and a candidate now for Congress in Washington State in their 3rd district, and he's just been a great voice on all of this. A pragmatic voice on the subject. The guy who has experienced combat says, I'd like to see if we can't decrease the number of times that Americans are going to war. What a novel idea. That would be good to do that. And the energy component is essential. One thing that didn't come up there, because I didn't want to belabor it with Mr. Ken, is, sometimes the left, when you talk about energy, they're like, well, oil production is at an all-time high. We're at an all-time high. The reason for this, and we've had Daniel Turner on our program so many times, and he's taught me a lot, quite a bit from Power of the Future. But as he points out, these oil wells take 5 years to get up and running. So once they start working on an oil well, to get it actually operational, producing oil and sending it out to the market, it takes 5 years for that. So to the extent that you've seen increases in these oil wells being online and producing the kind of energy that we need, that is the product of, start the clock, 5 years ago. And 5 years ago was the Trump presidency. So to the extent that we have energy production right now, you can thank the Trump environment for that, the Trump government for that. It's a 5-year time frame. And Biden has been working to stifle and shut down. In fact, remember, he said it was going away. He was promising fossil fuels are going away. He promised during the 2020 election. And that has deep effects. We are still way up on gas prices from where we were when Joe Biden took office. The White House today was insisting, well, we're down from the peak. The peak is the awful record you set in the first place. And we're still way up over when Trump left office. And the effect of that is not only felt at the pump, you can see it as you drive down the street. You look at those prices, you're like, my gosh, what's going on? I joked last week, I said it on the air. I was like, I almost felt like I had to tell my wife, I'm like, hey, just so you know what I spent money on today. Yeah, gas for my vehicle. Gas for my vehicle. It's expensive. But it's also picked up in every product you consume. Because those products only get to market by way of a vehicle carrying them that's powered by that gasoline. Or any of the other forms of energy, of course, that go into making and transporting those products. They're all more expensive as a result. And you can thank Biden for that. And then you've got, of course, our adversaries all around the planet who are only enriched by Biden's energy policies. Russia has been able to finance its war machine against Ukraine, which we are funding the Ukrainian side of the equation. And that's all thanks to Biden. All of it. All of it. That didn't have to be that way. It didn't have to be that way. Yet Biden drove energy prices up so ridiculously that it's only enriched Russia. And the same is true in Iran. We've eased up on their sanctions and we've allowed them to make tons of money and then to use it for their war machine. And by the way, probably also worth pointing out, the missiles and the munitions that Israel is using and the United States are using, they cost so much more money than the missiles and rockets that the Iranians were firing at Israel. In other words, like just in terms of the monetary impact, it is not even close. Not even close. We're talking millions upon millions upon millions of dollars exerted by the United States, by Israel, by Western allies to defend Israel from an incoming rocket barrage that cost way less. So there is some meaningful, quote, financial cost to us and to Israel and to everybody else involved. It's worth keeping in mind as this all continues, and it doesn't have to be this way. All right, let's go to the phones. I've got, who is this on line 2? Do we have a name? It's Robert. We got Robert on line 2. Hello, Robert. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for keeping it real, brother.
Thank you, Robert. Go ahead, sir. What's on your mind?
Hey, listen, man. I moved from Virginia down to South Carolina. I took you with me. Thanks for everything.
Oh, well, thank you.
No, I just want to hear your thoughts on how the DOJ is going after Trump for not denouncing the January 6ers to the point of accusing him of treason or whatever, and contrast it with Biden not condemning people shouting death to America, yet the DOJ is perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, like actual psychotic extremists in the streets of the United States, and nobody's hassling Biden over this. Yeah, no, that's true. And you know, the death to America chants, they just keep coming. Just to remind people, this was in Chicago over the weekend as a bunch of, like, it looked like fat white people just sitting around a room learning how to say death to America together. Take a listen to this.
So I'm going to teach you a chant in Persian that you can use if you ever encounter those Zionist freaks, whether they be Iranian or whatever, all right? Now, I don't drink margaritas, but we all know what a margarita is. We all know what a bar is. So you're going to say, Marg Bar. Marg Bar. Marg Bar Israel. Marg Bar Israel. Marg Bar Israel.
They would go on to say the same thing, whatever that phrase is, a death to America as well. Meanwhile, like the events of January 6th, which you're referring to, you know, first of all, I don't think anybody no normal person questions the patriotism of the January 6th defendants. I would say most of them. People love this country. Nobody wants to say that out loud, but they actually love this country. They're concerned about election integrity. That was the whole concept. And remember the events of that day. What did Trump say to the people who were in the building? What did he say?
But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order.
Yeah, he said, make your voices patriotically and peacefully heard, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did, Vince.
Yeah. Well, it turns out but anyway, he's the one on trial, of course, Robert.
Right. Of course. Hey, Vince. If I could.
Yeah.
If I could, I'd love to get a shout out to my buddy Brian back in Virginia. He's stuck back there, but he's a diehard listener, and he feels the same way I do about you keeping it real.
Well,
Thanks, Vince.
You're both great Americans. Thank you, Robert, and our salute to Brian as well. He's here with us on this side of the battle lines. Appreciate you guys. All right, hold tight. I've got more, but your calls in a moment and all of the breaking news in a crazy news environment. All ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 5:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630 WMAL. Eyes open for whether or not your travels are being disrupted by these left-wing lunatics who are trying to disrupt traffic all across the country. That's happened to a ton of places today. San Francisco, Oakland, Chicago, Philadelphia, Tampa, just everywhere. Some of this is going on in Miami. It's all over the place. Florida cops have been good, though. They've been quick. They arrested everybody really fast and got things back open in each of these incidents. But you've been watching this. Chris is in Marshall now, as he so often is. Line 1. Chris, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Well, good afternoon, sir. I heard a nasty rumor that you have a knack for making sense of the news, so I need you to help me understand this. What rule of engagement dictates that when some moron cements their hand to the pavement, that becomes top priority, is removing them? Why don't we just put a couple of traffic pylons around them and let nature take its course? Why do we focus on, oh, my God, stop everything. We got to get them off the highway. They want to be there. Leave them there.
They wouldn't be there. Well, I mean, you could just, grab them by the ankles and rip their hand off the ground. I mean,
if I find one, you bet your sweet I will.
Because as Tom Cotton pointed out, sorry, you're going to lose a bunch of skin on your hand. You're the idiot who glued your hand to the pavement. I was talking to Corey before the show today, Corey, our producer here, and I was thinking, what would happen if somebody glued their hand to your car in the middle of traffic? Do you just drive off at that point, Chris?
Yeah. If they, finders keepers, I guess. You gained yourself a passenger. I wonder if you can ride the express lane, the HOV lane. Then, if you got some guy running along behind next to your car trying to keep up because he glued his hand to your door, can you then take the HOV lanes?
Yeah. What was that movie? Vacation. Chevy Chase talked about they accidentally left the dog out the back of the car. And he kept up. He kept up for
the grandmother on the roof of the car, right?
The dog kept up for the first mile or something.
My God, he did everything he could. He kept up as well as he could.
I love dogs. I love dogs. I love dogs a lot more than I love these maniacs who are out in the road disrupting everything. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Who I don't love at all, I should point out. Let me see. Mark's in Woodbridge, line 3. Mark, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Chris, great show like usual, man. Hey, I like. I'm sorry. I called you Chris. Vince, I like Chris.
Mark, is that the first time you've done that? Sometimes I get people say it's Chris. Have you done that a couple times to me?
No.
Okay.
Chris from Marshall. He's pretty cool.
Chris from Marshall's cool.
Anyway,
Chris Plant is also cool. Sometimes people get us confused.
The protesters and the demonstrators leave true tax-paying American citizens alone. Go fight the cause where you need to fight it, not here. These people just want to get to work, take their kids to school, freaking have a nice life.
I know.
Look, the country is only 250 years old. These places over there are thousands of years old, and they're still fighting a certain war. Really? If you can't decide that, Israel is the greatest country over there, and I don't understand. Please explain to me why these protesters are sitting in our our Congress.
Sorry, you can bring. Do you have Mark still with us, or bring him back up? Did you dump it? Okay, good. Sorry, Mark. Just because you cursed, we had to go. We went through a little rigmarole just a second ago. We dumped your curse word off the air. But go ahead.
But you got people like Rashida Tlaib not answering to Fox News because she doesn't want to denounce killing of people.
How hard is it?
Really?
I know. And so you think?
Don't understand it.
I don't know if you said this or if you just told Corey. Just to make sure, but you think that these guys, they shouldn't just protest here. They should go overseas and fight for their cause. If you want to be warriors, go be warriors.
Thank you. Hey, look, we're bringing illegals in.
Yeah.
Can't we ship some of these out to go help the cause that they're actually fighting for?
Well, here's the thing.
Leave Americans.
Here's the thing. First of all, that Israel doesn't need any more people coming after them, for one. But if anybody's going to come after you, you'd want these doughy weaklings to be the ones. Because have you seen the images of these guys? They're just like a bunch of fat people wearing COVID masks, sitting in the middle of the road, gluing their various body parts to the ground. It is like the single most pathetic fighting force you could possibly imagine are the people that are involved here. But they're disrupting everything. And then, of course, brings literal traffic to a standstill. And these cities are trying to figure out, scratching their head, how do we get these guys off the ground? What do we do? And they're like gingerly removing them, cutting through the various chains and cement and PVC pipe and glue that these guys are using to disrupt everything, Mark.
Thank you. And American citizens need a job. American taxpayers do this, and we're paying the people to say, oh, it's okay if they do that. Really?
Yeah.
It's not okay to do that. These people are getting to work. I got to drive up to Alexandria. It's a mess. I'm going like, what is wrong? Really? I can't drive. I got to go serve jury duty, actually. And I'm going like, it's freaking me out. I don't even want to go. But I will do my duty, and I will go there.
Well, you should go, because otherwise, our jury system's all screwed up anyway. We need sane people in it. So, Mark, that's a good idea, and you sound very sane. You've passed my jury selection process, so thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate the call.
Hey, Vince, great show, and you guys are great, man. Take care of yourself.
Thank you so much. There you go. There's Mark in Woodbridge, getting a little animated today, but luckily We've got the technology. We can survive the occasional curse word. That's not encouragement, by the way. All right. Let me take a look at what's going on politically right now. There's the left is getting very excited about a survey over the weekend showing that Joe Biden is closing the gap on Trump. Joe Biden is finally catching up to Trump. It's a New York Times Siena poll, and it shows that Biden has 45% support and Trump has 46% support. It is a poll of registered voters. That is a really critical piece of information that you should look for when you're reading about these surveys. There's a massive difference between registered and likely voters. You get a lot more likely voter polling as we get closer to Election Day. Miranda Devine's writing about this piece today, though, in the New York Post, this poll. She says, headline, new poll shows Biden closing gap on Trump, but that's where the good news ends for Democrats, she writes. As Donald Trump shows up to a Manhattan court this week for his latest lawfare flogging from Democrats, Biden boosters are doing their best to trumpet a poll turnaround for the president after what they claim was his electrifying performance at the State of the Union. Is Joe Biden the favorite now? Begged Newsweek. It's true that the latest New York Times Siena poll over the weekend does show Biden has closed the gap with Trump nationally, producing a statistical tie of 45 to 46%. But that's where the good news ends for Democrats. It's not just in the battleground states that Biden consistently lags behind his nemesis, including in a recent Wall Street Journal poll showing Trump ahead by up to 8 percentage points in 6 of 7 crucial states. I think that was also the survey that showed that Trump has 30% support among black men. This is an unheard of number in the modern era for a Republican. On the economy and foreign relations, 2 areas Biden claims are his forte, he was smashed by Trump in the New York Times Siena poll. On whether his presidency was good or bad for America, Trump wins hands down. 42% of registered voters say the Trump years were mostly good for America. Just 25% say the same for Biden's time in office. That's huge. That's huge. I saw a guy today, Chris Cillizza, who has a famous capacity to get things wrong. He was complaining about this. He's like, I can't understand it. He was expressing on X posts today, tweeting in the old vernacular. I can't understand it. How do people have a good memory of the Trump era? That's when we had COVID, he says. Oh, come on. Oh, please. Spare us. In fact, you know that satisfaction among Americans and faith in institutions, all of these things, had reached peaks prior to the emergence of COVID. Trump was barreling forward prior to March of 2020. And then, of course, COVID comes along. And, that definitely happened. We all lived through it. I don't need to remind you of all of the problems that came along with that. But in the final assessment, voters now have the benefit of the Trump era and the Biden era to look back at, and they wildly approve of the Trump era, not so much of Biden. 25% say that times are good in our country right now with Biden as president. In fact, 46% of respondents think the Biden presidency has been, quote, mostly bad for America. Just a third said that for Trump, 33%. Even on his pet topic of defending democracy, Biden ties with Trump. It turns out voters don't think trying to lock up your opponent and censoring free speech are terribly democratic. Both Trump and Biden scored 31% on whether they are, quote, good for democracy, which must just kill the Biden team since Trump's, quote, unique threat to freedom and democracy is the centerpiece of the president's campaign. In fact, Trump and defending democracy. Corey Inganamort, come here. I want Corey to come in here because I got to ask him about his boat trip this weekend. I've been giving you these boat updates with Corey on the Potomac. Corey has a boat that it's a beautiful pontoon boat. It seats many people, and he takes it out on the Potomac most weekends. You'll usually see them. And when he's out there, he flies the biggest pro-Trump flag that many of us have ever seen. And it's a custom flag. On the flag is a mugshot of Donald Trump. It's the one that Fannie Willis forced him into in Georgia. And it says, save democracy, Trump 2024. Do I have all of that right?
That's correct. Yes, Vince.
And so the first time you took it out was a weekend ago.
It was a weekend ago. It was for the Cherry Blossom 10-miler race, and the reactions were mostly negative. We got
Mostly
a lot
negative.
of middle fingers.
Middle fingers galore. They were documenting, and they were recording them, and they were counting them down. Every middle finger that popped up. And this is what I would normally expect, short of gunshots. This is what I would normally expect from a Washington, D.C. audience, right on the coast on the Potomac. People are raising their middle fingers to you. And do some people fall for, they don't see the flag at first? Do they wave to you before the middle finger goes up?
Yeah, and then they pass us. I'm like, oh, we actually don't like him. Screw that guy. And then they'll yell something. But I had to call you this morning, Vince, because we took it out again yesterday, me and 10 of my friends, all MAGA-loving patriots. And I was absolutely shocked at the reaction we got yesterday. It was a complete 180 from a week ago when everybody hated it.
So the weather was really nice this weekend, but except for the wind was super rough this weekend. And I kept thinking, I was like, I wonder if Corey's out with the boat. You were out. It was choppy?
We were dedicated. Yes, it was not the greatest boat weather. It was very, very choppy. We got soaked. We got a wave crash over the boat probably every 5-10 minutes.
Wow.
We were freezing our butts off for a while, but it was the reactions, Vince. When I tell you, we went by Georgetown, we went to the wharf, we even went way up the Anacostia River for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
We were met with so many positive reactions.
Wait, no way.
I swear to God, I could not believe it. The thumbs up, the yelling. Georgetown, people were dancing, and it was just, it was actually
people were
quite
dancing as you went by?
They were dancing.
Were you blasting music at the time?
We were blasting a lot of music, but I think we were far enough that they didn't even hear it. They were just so energized to see the flag. And it was completely a shock to me. I thought I was the only boat out on the Potomac with a Trump flag.
Yeah.
We actually ran into another boat with a Trump 1 and Trump 2024 flags. We drove right up to him. He's like, "Oh my God, there's another one." And he's like, "Yes, there's more of us, and we're actually gonna have a boat parade on May 4th this year." I'm unavailable. I can't make it, but so all those boat parades that you see down in Florida or South Carolina, where you just see, hundreds of boats. Apparently, we're bringing those to Washington, D.C. on the Potomac River soon too.
I've been down to Florida, and I've seen some of these, like the boats like parked at the sandbars with the Trump flags. It's like a NASCAR race on a sandbar. It's amazing. It's honestly amazing. And I do go to, I'm like, this is another world. This is not the world I live in. But you're telling me, actually, it is sort of the world I live in. Here in D.C., on the Potomac, there's going to be a lot of people on May 4th?
Well, apparently May 4th, it was so choppy that I didn't really get his information. I want to find this out online. I want to try to find it. So I won't be participating in May 4th. If anyone sees any pictures of this, I hope they get posted online. But from now on, any boat parades that take place in Washington, D.C., I will be there. I can't wait. It was the inspiration for even getting a boat. I told my friends yesterday, I had a Trump flag, and I needed somewhere to fly it. So that's why I got the boat. I wanted
you got the boat to go with the Trump flag.
Yes, exactly. The Trump boat parades inspired me to get a boat, and I just can't wait to start participating in this.
Wait, is that true? The boat parades themselves did inspire you to get the boat?
Yes, 100% inspired me. I was I want to be part of this. It just looks like so much fun.
Yeah.
And we will be. Vince, you will be there as well.
Well, he's not even. I mean, I really have to give you a sense of how far he's gone. So Corey has had a flag custom made. It's a huge one, and he works directly with this flag company. Every time he gets a new flag made, he supported Ron DeSantis last year, so he had a big DeSantis flag made, and all summer long it was DeSantis 2024. Now he's back on the Trump train. He's like, okay, we got to get this guy elected. He's got the Trump flag flying, and not only does he get the custom flag made, he retrofitted his boat to have some, basically put up this huge pole to accommodate the flag. There is really no natural position to do this. So you had to essentially jerry-rig this into the boat to make it work.
Yeah, it was a pain in the butt to figure it out, but I had to remove a cup holder. It's a 25-foot flag, and I had to actually saw a little bit of the wood that surrounded the cup holder after you take it out. I had to cut it out, and we have this PVC pipe system. We glued it to the wood on the ground.
Glad you got your PVC pipe back then.
Yeah.
Before the protesters started, the extremists started using them to hold themselves to cars and traffic.
So we made it work, but at the end of the day, I was just so excited. I wanted to tell our listener right now just how positive the reaction was. And if this is in Washington, D.C., we're told that I was, like I said, with 10 other MAGA-loving friends, and they were like, wow, we're going to win. We are going to win. I felt more optimism yesterday than I have in a really long time because people were coming out of the woodworks enthusiastically giving a thumbs up, yelling, Trump, Trump, Trump.
Well, that's quite
and
a
another
prediction.
boat was there for reinforcement.
You got Botradamus right here, just like out there on the water. Trump's
heard it
going to
here
win
first.
based on people cheering on the side of the Potomac. It is true. That is a sign. You know, it used to be that you wouldn't do that. Even if you did agree in sentiment, you wouldn't. Oh, you're in Washington, D.C.
Oh, by the way, too, Vince, real quick. We saw Joe Manchin yesterday. He lives on a boat.
Yeah, his houseboat.
We saw him on the wharf. He was on the roof. And we were approaching, and I'm pretty sure he saw us. I'm gonna say yes, he did see us. Yeah. And then he goes back downstairs. There were a few other people that were still on the roof. We were waving to. Of course, I played John Denver, "Country Roads," "Take Me Home."
Yeah.
We were blasting that, and we waved to his family, his friends, or
That's
whatever.
funny.
But I'm sure that Joe Manchin saw us out there too.
I love that so much. I'm also glad you got the flag out of the office because we had it hanging on the wall in our office, and I just had Trump's mugshot staring at me every day, judgmentally. And I was like, it might be time for this thing to fly on the Potomac. And sure enough, it is. Thank you, Corey. Good to hear from you.
Thank you.
And we'll check back in with Corey every so often for his Potomac Trump flag reports.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I was just listening about the boat with the Trump flag. My 17-year-old ran in the Cherry Blossom 10-miler a couple weeks ago and was so excited to see the boat. But she was saying how people were booing and flipping the finger and how sad it was that she wanted to yell and, be excited and celebrate, and she really wasn't able to do that.
She might have a chance to do it soon. It sounds like reinforcements are arriving. Supporters of the Trump flag on the Potomac. We'll keep you updated there. Up next, a familiar voice on the Great Ones show ahead on WMAL.